mortgages on your individual units. So this all goes back to the question of if you wanted to buy your unit, what would the purchase price be? If it was a condo, your purchase price would be, the debt would be tied specifically to your condo. If it was a co-op, there might be actually two pieces of debt. Very commonly in co-ops, you have an underlying mortgage that goes against the whole property, and then you'd have your individual loans on your shares of the co-op. But with respect to the existing debt, that would really go away.
What is happening or will happen to vacated, unrenovated apartments? Many seem to remain vacant once the long-term residents move out. Will I be able to move? Who wants to take that?
Well, currently, we understand that CW Capital has begun to renovate some of the currently vacant units with the idea, presumably, either of re-renting them so that they can generate some current income, or if the conversion process moves along fairly rapidly, with the idea of having those units available for sale in a in a renovated condition. In terms of the management of the property before we actually do the conversion, in terms of who can move into the vacant units, this is really right now for to be dealing with directly with Rose as a tenant. If you were interested in leasing another unit, it's really a question of property management right now. At the time of conversion, the vacant units will presumably, and this is an important detail to be negotiated, either be available for current tenants who are interested in purchasing to switch from their units to buying a vacant unit. Normally in a conversion, current insiders have the first opportunity to purchase vacant units, and then you would vacate your unit upon sale. Some of them may also be available clearly for outside sale at full market prices, not the kind of discount that you would get as a current tenant. And some of them may very well be available to remain as rental units for as we determine what portion of the property should and is likely to remain as rental.
It's only ultimately part of the negotiation, as Meredith said, with CW as to how all of that will play out. And we don't know the answers to that because CW has only recently now become the lender in possession and sort of begun the clock really ticking.
Could we get some kind of status like Mitchell-Lama designation to limit the purchase cost? Have I stumped everybody?
Well, Mitchell-Lama is not a program that is available any longer. That used to be a cheap mortgage program in return for cheap purchase prices. However, as I mentioned before, one of the things that we are going to be looking at is whether we can create a voluntary, and when I say voluntary, I'm thinking a program that any resident of the complex could decide if they wanted to take advantage of or not, to help bring down the purchase price of a unit in return for committing to permanent affordability, which would mean limited resale prices a la Mitchell-Lama on that unit. What we need to do is to explore, number one, what government subsidies are available that would make that attractive to somebody to want to make that choice. And number two, obviously assessing the fairness and the impact of that on the community as a whole.
Just since I don't think this is on. That's better. So Mitchell-Lama, of course, is a state program, and we have been reaching the period in the last few years where the subsidies on those have actually been ending, and there has been an active effort to find ways to save those, and that has been a very difficult effort. So it does seem, notwithstanding the fact that a lot of us would like to find ways to directly subsidize affordability in a complex like this over the long time. It does seem that in this budget climate and given the competition with other programs, that would be very difficult. We will, however, be looking at any way we can to make changes in state law to facilitate what the tenants want to do here, possibly by dealing with ways that we might address transaction costs, depending on how this is structured, or others. So Tom Doyne and I have been actively having conversations with our colleagues and committee staff in Albany, and we are looking at ways of doing that. But it does not seem likely we would get any kind of a direct subsidy like Mitchell-Lama.
But just with respect to government involvement, we've also been having a lot of conversations with city representatives through louder. All right. Sorry. With respect to that topic, we've also been having a lot of conversations with city representatives through the introduction by Councilman Gorodnick, and it's too early to tell what kind of help we'll be able to get there, but there's a very strong interest on the part of the city from HPD and beyond to trying to help the tenants in this situation to preserve affordability. And so whether it's something similar, and I'm not a Mitchell-Lama expert, but there are things kind of in the works that we've been trying to push through, and there is a pretty open dialogue happening.
This is another J51 question. What evidence has Tishman provided on the cost of renovations on individual apartments?
The independent consultant's work is still subject to confidentiality agreements between the plaintiff's firms and Tishman Speyer's lawyers. So I cannot go into the specific details of what has been done. I can tell you, however, that since the amount of work actually performed to make individual apartment improvements in the individual apartments has been a vital concern for the class members and for us, that the independent consultant has spent probably most of its billable time trying to verify that the work was actually done. So it's been a big, significant focus of our firm and a big, significant focus of the independent consultant's work. And I can tell you that, unfortunately, the law provides that if the improvement costs are verified, then the owner can legitimately increase the rent in the proportion that's permitted by law, which is 1/40th of the cost. And it doesn't matter if the owner overpaid. And it's true that because the owners wanted to get the apartment rents above the $2,000 luxury decontrol threshold, they had tremendous incentive to overpay for these improvements. Unfortunately, the law provides that it doesn't matter if they overpaid, so long as they can prove that they paid what they say they paid, they're allowed to take the increase. At the end of the day, we believe, based on the work that's been done so far, that a great percentage of those claimed individual apartment improvements were actually paid for as represented by the defendants.
Conversion timeline, will it occur while interest rates are low, and does it depend on the number of people who opt to buy?
Ben Bernanke, we need you. The conversion timeline it'll be a while. Assuming that we get a plan organized with CW Capital by the end of the first quarter or thereabouts in 2011. That is optimistic, but I think at the same time it's certainly possible. There's then a fairly extended period of time for Attorney General review and approval of actual offering documents, engineering studies that will have to be done, if it's a condominium, architectural work that will have to be done, such that my best guess is that the earliest date that purchases can actually take place would probably be the very end of 2011. And I think that that's just an irreducible timeline, for what would really be the largest conversion in history. We will hope that interest rates remain at the level that they are now. We also will be counting on getting support where possible with FHA and other government programs to help with individual unit mortgages. The best I can predict.
If we purchase the community, can we reimpose the original rental rules and weed out the college-age tenants?
Who remembers the original rental rules?
Actually, it also kind of goes along with, is NYU still in the bidding process?
I'm not sure. What were the original rental rules? Was this tied to number of people unrelated in an apartment or something like that?
Well, there has been a kind of a mushrooming of partitions in apartments that had not been seen very much prior to the advent of some of the apartments being turned into dorm rooms. And so I don't know if I'm really not sure what the person had in mind, or
maybe I'll just take a quick crack at this. First of all, on NYU being involved in the bidding process, no, as far as we know, we have not heard anything specific about NYU being interested in being a buyer of Stuyvesant Town, and I just want to caution the questioner about the age of the resident being the issue, because it's not really the age of the resident which is the issue, it's the behavior of the resident which is the issue. And there are some young tenants who are perfectly wonderful tenants, and so I just want to be cautious about that. But the point is, I think we all understand that the issue of dorm-like living is one which is a concern of this community. The Tenants Association has expressed this as a concern and a priority in a restructuring plan, and that will surely come out in whatever is negotiated with the CW Capital.
what of the older tenants who are dependent on SCREE? Are we included among the rent stabilized? Yes.
The answer is yes, and that will remain in effect irrespective of a conversion. No worries about that. That simply depends on the city government and I think state legislation as well to keep that program in place.
Yeah, if the rent laws stay in place, SCREE continues and DREE continues, and a rent stabilized tenant who now has SCREE and DREE, as long as you continue to qualify and recertify, you'll keep it.
The next question is, will or can Stuyvesant Town and Peter Cooper Village be dealt with separately, or are they bound together as one entity?
Although Peter Cooper and Stuyvesant Town are separate tax lots, each one, Stuyvesant Town is a single tax lot, Peter Cooper Village is a single tax lot, and in theory, technically, if CW Capital had completed its foreclosure, they could have sold each of those tax lots separately. In practice, the administration of the two pieces is so tied together. And if we've learned anything from CW over the last several months in the course of their litigation, they've talked about just how complicated the management of the property is and the software to manage the property is. It has become abundantly clear to us that the property is managed completely as an integrated whole, and that it would be almost impossible to separate